Welcome, Pathfinders, back to our after party number 7 now, covering episodes
19, 20, and 21.
Yeah, 19, 20, and 21, as we continue to make our way through the Mummy's Massive Adventure Path. I am your host and Game Master, Rick Sandidge. I'm joined by Jessica, Jordan, Rachel, and Heather. I can give last names if you guys care, but you probably listen back to one of the previous episodes and get that.
We're not important enough for last names. We're just his minions and his little name.
I have the same last name. It's fine.
You made a similar joke during the last after party.
Well, it's been a while. I don't remember.
Heather just makes the same jokes over and over again.
Really, yeah.
Or maybe we should get our names also.
Well, let's be honest. By the time we hit like 50 or 60 episodes, I'm going to run out of material and be recycling jokes anyway. So that's just fair warning.
We'll challenge ourselves to become funnier.
Ever today, my wit is limited.
Never. I have a plethora of 90s knowledge to bring
I was going to say, it'll just become puns and references to old stuff that,
I already do that.
Datas severely.
But the after party is, of course, where we talk about the last 3 episodes that we have gone through, a little bit of what's going on with nerd culture and the channel as a whole, as well as us as players and Game Master. Yeah, we have finished. We're actually, for the first part of this, we're going to talk a little bit about 2 episodes, because there's a little bit of bleed over where episode 18, episode 19, they're a little bit of an A-side, B-side, part 1, part 2 kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I figure we'll start with just talking a little bit about that.
We talked a little bit about episode.
A little bit about episode at the end of the last adventure party.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's first talk about episode number 18, which is Boys Night Out. We talked a little bit about it at the end of the last episode where Sudi goes off and does... Well, more or less plays hero, and Onuris...
I saved the whole city.
And Onuris goes around. Now...
How did you save the whole city? Because I didn't hear the episode.
Okay, well...
I had the Plague of Madness, which, almost destroyed the city the first time around.
And so I go to get a cure so that Onuris doesn't infect the entire city and kill everybody. And Onuris, meanwhile, is hallucinating and going around literally wandering the streets, meaning he could be infecting anybody. So I saved the city by saving Onuris.
You didn't sneeze on anybody, did you?
I don't know. I was having visions at the time.
I'm not the hero that they need, but I am the one they deserve.
And you can read about Onuris's take on those visions and hallucinations on the blog now.
Yeah.
It is true, yes. Heather wrote the first in our new ongoing series where we've started up a blog on our website, which if you just subscribe to us through any of the podcast subscription services, you may not be aware, but we do have a website. It is find-path.com. Mm-hmm. And you can go there. You can see a little about profiles pertaining towards all of us. You can link off to our Twitter handles. And we are now adding more blog content, including our character sheets up on there and Heather's short story, which kind of gives a little bit more of an in-depth perspective into her character's thoughts during the events of episode 18. So, I suppose for the two of you, do you guys have any questions that kind of arose from going through episode 18? Your own thoughts?
Only about Onuris' backstory, because that was like, what? And Heather's doing the yes, and
the bird noise there did remind me to say that we're listening to Sirenscape, as we always listen to Sirenscape while we're doing the Find the Path podcast. This is the Elvenvel Night Cleansing Rain.
I like it.
Sunset.
It's pretty peaceful.
It's kind of peaceful.
More about Onuris' backstory will come out as we play, of course. I'm not going to give away spoilers.
Yeah.
You have to wait like everyone else.
I know.
Sitra is going to, force you to tell her. That is the thing I think will happen.
That's true. Well, so in that case, I can ask my own questions pertaining towards it. So, Jordan, that was an opportunity for you to play Sudi outside of Sudi's usual element.
Yeah.
We've received a lot of feedback on those episodes 18 and 19, all of which was positive, so thank you guys.
Seem to have liked that.
Seem to like our roleplay episodes. I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to put players into a situation where their characters are not really built for it, and oftentimes this will come in a dangerous situation where you'll be like, oh, okay, it's a fighter in full plate mail. Let's put him on a bridge over a rushing river.
Let's not do that.
Please
so it's oh, he's out of his element. In this case, it was Sudi is a monk. I don't think Sudi has any ranks in any of the 3 big role-playing stats, which would be bluff, diplomacy, or intimidate.
Absolutely don't. Yeah,
absolutely don't.
I have none of that. So
no knowledge, nobility, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely don't have that.
Knowledge
either.
Local.
Are you just trying to shame Sudi?
No, I don't have that either.
It feels like that.
The thing to remember about Sudi, and I'm going to rehash this because I said it, I think, in the first episode, and I was reminded whenever I looked at your backstory. Yeah, Sudi barely even knows how to read. So yeah, he's not really good on that book learning. So the things he does know is the things that are interesting to him.
So I guess my question there is, how do you feel about being a player put in a situation that is out of your element?
See, the thing about it is I really like it because it's really good to develop that character and to know, like, I base characters a lot on myself, and so, like, I have no idea how I would act in that situation. Like, it's like meeting the queen, or the mayor or something. I'm like, I have no idea how to act around you, dude, so...
And she's also not nice.
Well, and she's not a nice lady, but, it's really interesting just because I can just, like, imagine, like, this little, like, fur ball of a cat that just, like, looks like a
Are we talking about the
scruffy comes
actual
up.
queen, or?
Well, she's like
city
really,
council.
she's on the city council, so she's, like, important.
Or like a member of parliament or something.
Yeah, but like being like super awkward and like very uncomfortable. Like I've been that way in my past, so like I can channel that into a character, and you don't really get a lot of opportunities to do that. So I actually really liked it.
Routinely, even as a player, sometimes I'm guilty of this as well. A lot of times, players will get that mindset where once you hit about 5th level, usually I say 5th to 6th, 7th level or something, when you're just in a small town and you kind of look around, it's like,
I could
kill everyone.
Yeah.
It's that, like, it's like, I don't have to listen to you, I could kill you.
I don't have that thought.
It depends on what they're doing.
Yeah.
There have
not
definitely
something
been
that
times
crosses
I've
my
wanted
mind.
to just nuke it from orbit, so.
So fun thing though with Sudi in that situation, that I've been planning on doing something with Onuris's backstory and something related to that for a while. And the moment that it ended up being Onuris and Sitra that went over there and found the ring and had their whole little like roleplay romantic exchange while being possessed. Yep.
Like the
That I knew I was going to do something like that, and I just didn't know who was going to be on the side of going and speaking. And I found it interesting with Sudi because I was, it's probably going to be Sudi, but if it's involving the temple, it might be Sagira. And I thought, like, either of those would be pretty interesting. I was happy with the way that the role-playing turned out, where it was just kind of Sudi in an awkward position. I think it would have been much more confrontational with Sagira.
Yeah.
She would have been less awkward. She's dealt with at least like upper middle class before.
And if somehow it ended up being Sitra was middle class before. She grew up very poor, but she was middle class.
Well, she was middle class, and then they went poor, so she doesn't remember the first time they had money, but then
Sure.
they had money again.
So, Heather, what about your thoughts? Did you enjoy the whole like dream vision-y
Yes, I liked it a
element
lot.
of it? I'm a very big fan of the Egyptian mythology.
Yeah,
as
I
a
don't want to
whole.
say too much because I don't want to accidentally do spoilers. But
Yeah, that's-
it was.
I like that audio effect.
Yeah,
Oh
that was
yeah,
a cool
and I got to use the
audio effects
reverb.
that
I had
you
a
did.
lot of
was
fun
good.
with the reverb.
Maybe that's how you solve my issue.
We
We're not reverbing you,
I don't want
you into a
reverb.
character voice.
So yeah, I
auto-tune
did get to use the reverb, so everyone got this kind of like dream-like. I actually used the reverb and a fun little audio thing out there for your audio files, which surprisingly we get a lot of questions about the audio side of things. I used the reverb for that, and I actually also slowed down the audio slightly for that, so it gave that kind of
Cool.
hazy, dream-like when you're listening to it, that everything is kind of echoey and distant.
Yeah, and I liked writing down the little like journal entry from Onuris' perspective on that because I was able to kind of elaborate on the stuff that happened without also being super spoilery. So I thought that was a good exercise.
And I enjoyed getting to include things like the like a person's ball, like the birds with the faces of people and everything that you're having on your weird vision quest. Just because I've always found the whole Egyptian concept and the ib and the ba and the ka to be interesting. So everyone seemed to have enjoyed episode 18. We then went on into episode 19, which was the first sight of that.
I rolled like 5 nat ones that episode.
Yeah, Jessica and Rachel got to do that one with Sagira and Sitra going off on their own. I don't feel like the two of them have had as much characterization. There seems to be a lot of back and forth between Sudi and Sagira and a lot of back and forth between Sitra and Onuris.
That's because we're the people who know each other. And keep
Right.
in mind,
Sit on
even
that
though
side
this
of
is
the
like in
table.
episode 22 and we've been playing this for a while now, it's been like 3 days in game.
Yeah, like I barely
Like-
know these people.
Like
kind of thing.
I've known Sagira, or Onuris has known Sagira for 3 days, and while
And all he knows about her is that she robs things and she's
yeah,
not
I mean,
good.
it's not like she's given the best first impression to Onuris. So I
Although
mean,
having gone to the temple now, I don't know if that's going to influence Onuris'
yeah, I
opinion
mean,
of Sagira.
you know, and of course he's going to be nice to her because her mom just died.
I'm religious.
but
Well,
Yeah,
we're
and he
getting a little.
he and Sudi know each other again in the same way he and Sitra know each other. It's that coworkers that you've kind of chit-chatted with the past year.
Onuris
but-
doesn't tell people anything.
Well, mostly because the one person he did used to tell everything to says he's crazy
But
now.
episode 19 though wasn't about Onuris.
No, well,
He wasn't even
It
there.
I am not even going to listen to that episode.
We
'cause
didn't
I
even
wasn't
think
there.
about
It
Onuris.
is true. My players, dedicated as they are to the method.
Not me. I listened to the other episode.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Heather and I both agree we're not listening to episode 19.
I'm just afraid that if I listen to it, I'll subconsciously metagame.
It's the same thing with Rachel not wanting to listen to what happened with the boys.
Now, the boys one has a lot more spoilers.
Yeah.
Ours was shenanigans and then immediate
Shenanigans,
darkness.
yeah.
I know apparently Citra has a boyfriend now or something.
I have
So-
a somewhat boyfriend. He might die, so we'll see.
So that episode did
Yeah, we
it
gotta
did
catch
feature a lot of NPCs. Falto made his appearance once again, as Falto has been kind of a reoccurring character in the background.
I feel like he's just a poor naive cinnamon roll
Yeah.
that got roped into like this
Yeah.
awful
Maybe,
attachment party.
It is always one of those really interesting things when you find an NPC that you really attach to, either as a party or an individual, because like I feel like Falto is one of those people that they may have just like been like, and here's a couple of people that they may meet, and like he's become like kind of recurring character. We've had drinks with them and stuff. So
What is it with me as a player always falling in love or having things with the NPCs? 'Cause
Well,
You're-
actually,
you're
that is
a-
your husband.
You're clearly a hopeless romantic of a.
Well, and
of
it's
a
not
player.
always the NPCs. I mean, there was the one campaign where our characters got together.
Oh, that's true.
It's
That
true.
is true.
It
You
did
just always
sound
get
like
together with
the
people
best.
in yours. Yeah.
But anyway, in episode 19, though, you guys did get to go out. Funny enough, Mummy's Mask came out in 2014. So at the time of recording this, some 4 years ago. And in Mummy's Mask, in the back section where they talk about the city, they mention like the Tooth and Hookah and
Yeah, I was going to say they usually give you all the locations you'll need.
yeah, they give you the basic information, and they give me 2 paragraphs on the Whispering Stone, which was kind of fun. And originally, I didn't really plan on doing much pertaining towards it until not too long ago, a book came out called Taverns of the Inner Sea,
Oh, yeah.
which gave me like 10 pages on the Whispering Stone with maps and the drinks and all of the rest of that stuff. So this is just kind of a great opportunity to mention that as Paizo puts out more books, they oftentimes go back and expand on even small throwaway things. Like they just mentioned that in 2 paragraphs in this book. And then one of the Paizo staff, and sadly they don't actually put who wrote what sections at the front of that section. So whoever wrote that did a phenomenal job with it, and I very much enjoyed incorporating more of the Whispering Stone, because the moment I read that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to add some more of that, because it was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
we
the
definitely
thing I really like is sometimes they are a little light on like the actual details and stuff, but between all of the campaign settings and all of that, you can find ridiculous amounts of information that you can really make your setting very vibrant. And like I have a lot of the campaign settings, and I've had one that's just ships.
Yeah.
Just it's nothing but ships. Super cool for a pirate campaign to have just
Yeah.
a lot of ships that are historical or that are famous or something like that. So
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think back to it, there are 3 adventure paths that take you at some point to Sandpoint. Mm-hmm. And so Sandpoint getting its own book.
it's long overdue, actually. Like
Yeah.
if you think about it, based on that.
Those
you know.
poor people.
Yep. Poor people in Sandpoint.
Oh, gosh,
Sandpoint is one of
so
those towns
much.
that I'm like, bad things always happen here. Why do people live here?
It's like Thrushmore.
So I
yeah,
suppose
it's like Rushmore. It's another one of those. There's lists of towns in Pathfinder that it's like, why does anybody live here?
So I suppose on the subject of episode 19, hey Rachel, what about your thoughts?
I had a lot of fun with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I think I actually got to really kind of develop Citra's character a little bit more. Because when you're exploring tombs and whatnot, she's got to be this serious rogue and make sure that people aren't like dying around her and whatnot because the trap goes off. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
And so I think it was kind of a chance for her character to kind of loosen up and realize that, hey, these people aren't so bad. I can have fun with them and joke around. And
Yeah.
One person.
yeah, I know, but you're like the hardest one to crack because she already knows that Onuris is a challenge.
I'm really not that hard to crack. I just don't tell people my whole backstory, my whole life.
But you do have a serious persona a little bit more. Like you joke around with Sudi, but not as much with.
And then I got real drunk
It
Yeah.
did.
with a lot of nat
Yeah, you
ones
did.
on fort saves.
So
I actually held my drink pretty well.
that is true.
I'm
Yeah.
very proud about that.
I think you drink less than me too.
Like one.
So what
was-
about you, Jessica? overall pretty happy with that? Was there a...
It was crazy. I did not expect to have to deal with my dad coming out of the shadows at the end.
That
was
is
shocking.
true. After the party, yeah.
Yeah, that is not. I was not expecting that to happen. Or to like have this arc with my like. I knew my family would probably come up because they're also in Wati, but I didn't think that they would be like a thing. I didn't think there would be like a murder thing.
Yeah, I like incorporating that in. And at this point, it's vague enough that I can only imagine you're just like, is it the Fated or starting in the following episodes, suddenly the Silver Chain is involved in this whole like gang warfare thing? Is it something to do? Is it possible that they were right? It's just some guy drug-addled on Mamiya
Yeah.
breaking in there. Seems a little too convenient. But
And
it
also,
could just be.
Mamiya is from mummies, not from like fresh dead people.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Unless your mom was up to some shady stuff and was
She
moving
wasn't
that stuff.
shady like that.
I don't know.
I mean,
Mom.
you know, I haven't seen her in, I don't know, 6 years?
Well, and I saw it as a good opportunity to lay a future campaign seed because it's something that can be brought up here. It's something that you can now talk through with the rest of your group. And, you know, you've got other things to deal with immediately. And in addition to that, there was kind of a part where you guys were talking, I think it was in episode 21, where you guys were just kind of saying, why is she, I think it was Onuris, was saying, like, why is she here? Why isn't she dealing with this right now? And there's just that part of me that's like, it's a police matter. Like, the city guard are investigating this. This has nothing, like, they're not going to let some random person suddenly step in. She can do her own investigation, but it's not going to be like, oh,
I mean,
okay,
that's what Onuris meant. It's like, why aren't we going and asking her dad what happened? Why aren't we kind of poking around and seeing
well,
what's
and of
going
course,
on?
like, her dad doesn't know anything more than the guard do. And
But Sagira also is just like, I don't even know what to do with this information because, like, you guys were all dead to me.
yeah.
But now, like, she's literally dead. And I didn't hate her as much as I hate you. So this is weird. I don't know what to do with this.
And the whole idea that she might have some information pertaining towards your,
Yeah, that's interesting.
what he said is your, your actual
My
father.
actual papa.
So, getting into the fact that you were Suli. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty fun game. I enjoyed, again, using one of my campaign setting books and putting that to use. I enjoyed the actual drink recipes that they provided
Yeah,
in there,
yeah,
so I
that's
could
fun.
like rattle
I was
off
going to
all
say,
the
we haven't
ingredients.
tried any of those to see if they actually work.
Sounds
Yeah,
good, though.
I'm interested in trying that, especially that. I
Love
think it's
potion?
Tet's Kiss. Yeah, the love potion. Or it's like, oh man,
That's what
it's
we
like
drink,
some
right?
pomegranate juice.
We drank that in beer. Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole thing.
They're real big on beer. It's safer to drink than the water.
Yeah. And then we, like,
Pure
immediately
crocodiles.
split the party again.
It's true.
Whose fault is that?
Well, her mom had just died, and then she was, like, helpless an entire fight. Sagira could do 0 things while all of her friends were being murdered.
So you guys did
have
go
a
into
breakdown.
episode 20, re-entered into the necropolis, and you reversed an ambush since you guys
Yeah.
made a heck of a... I'm actually going to throw this out here because some people have commented on the way that I run stealth checks and how it seems a little odd. One of the most commonly forgotten rules, especially when it pertains towards stealth, is the perception check to notice someone stealthing goes up by 1 for every 10 feet between you and your target. It is commonly forgotten, and because of that, even on Onuris when he was back, okay, there's a sleeping centipede. It's like, well, that centipede's still 40 feet away. So whatever you're rolling, you were getting a higher roll than that, and including that, and you take a penalty when you're sleeping. But in the case of you guys detecting that ambush, a lot of times what's almost more important than someone making or the stealth roll is how high a perception roll. Because you guys rolled high enough to notice that guy, I think I said from a distance of 70 feet.
Yeah, it was redonkulous.
Which, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's really hard to do.
It was like the opposite of the episode before, where I rolled nothing but nat ones. I either roll really high or really low.
Yeah, just because the wild card there. And so you guys did a little reverse ambush. You had the fight break out. It was an interesting fight because it utilized almost the entirety, and we have a full-size Crystal Castle battle mat. And it utilized pretty much the entirety of the battle mat. And you guys used up a lot of the field. There was a lot of movement. There was a lot of going from place to
I was going to
place.
say, I feel like I was running like every other move or every
Sudi,
other round.
yeah, Sudi was taking a pounding because this is probably the first time you guys have run into ranged attacks as a serious threat to the group.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was one of those things that, like, we haven't fought a single person
Yeah.
or intelligent creature, really, beyond,
so
like,
they're-
that wasn't some kind of
And we didn't
outsider
kill
or undead or
anybody.
something.
You didn't kill anyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't
Not for lack of trying. For some
Yeah.
I
else.
mean, theoretically we did because we turned them over.
Well, I mean, that's their
We're
own
not
fault.
doing
They
the
broke the
murdering.
law.
There were a lot of tanglefoot bags and nets thrown around, neither of which are anything that I I use often.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
That's a low-level thing, because I feel like at higher levels, there's always ways of getting out of that stuff much easier.
Tanglefoot bags, there's not really much you can do unless you have universal solvent.
The DC to resist the Tanglefoot bag isn't that.
Because it's static,
High.
so...
Yeah,
is it,
isn't
like
that
a
high, but
15 or
I think it's a
12?
15.
Yeah.
I have a 7 escape artist.
Yeah.
And I just could not roll.
Yeah, you're doing great for those perception rolls, and those
Yeah.
stealth checks were pretty good. But
And so then it ended up being like all of the anger that Sagira had about her mom being dead, when if she had been there it wouldn't have happened, got filtered into Sagira has been literally held unable to move or help anyone the entire fight. And then the person who held her is gonna just escape?
yeah.
It was not happening.
So it was mostly a combat episode, and so there's not really a whole lot to say pertaining towards it. I will say that the few things that I took away interesting from it was, one, just Jessica having to deal with escape artists and all the rest of that is not something that runs into a lot of combats unless someone's grappling you. And then a lot of times you can just forego and just say, you know what, I'm just going to start stabbing this guy.
But he was far away.
Yeah, so I mean, there was nothing you could really do about that.
And I purposefully have, like, I wear light armor, and I have a rank in escape artist, and I've built a character that's going to be good at slipping through things, because like tomb robbing, and it just didn't. The rolls, the dice, they were against me here.
The other thing that I'll say was really interesting with that episode, probably not in a positive way for Heather, is it's one of those occasions that really illustrates when you're wearing medium armor.
Yeah, I'm not really planning on sticking with that for very long. It's just, we found this nice set of armor, and it was way better than what I had, so I might as well wear it.
But that 20-foot movement speed is...
Oh, yeah, that's just...
If
that's just
anything,
killer.
I'm eventually going to spring for a mithril breastplate, and that's probably the heaviest I'm going to have on yours wear.
You know what I like? Celestial. Celestial armor is real cool.
Yeah.
That's really expensive.
I know, but you can fly.
Yeah. If Sudi weren't taking such a pounding, that was a great fight for Sudi. The problem was that Sudi was in a couple of levels. If Sudi picks up deflect arrow or catch arrow or something like that,
Oh, yeah, I love...
it's going to be phenomenal for him. But
I feel like you should
that would have
definitely
been a
pick
great
that up.
fight.
Yeah,
for
that would have been a great fight to highlight the monk as
I'm going to take improved grapple, because all I do is grapple things, and you should take catch arrows.
Yeah. No, I believe it's in the pipeline.
I almost feel like Sagira, and this would slow down your progression, be the only problem.
Dip in Brawler.
Dip into Brawler and just
I
be
did
like...
think about it. I thought about it. But I want my cat.
Yeah. So yeah, it is one of those occasions that really illustrates speed when you're having to deal with a field that
Well,
large.
not only that, it also is a really good one for me because of the elevation that some of them were going up, and being able to, having taken the climber
alternate racial trait,
to just zip right up those. Like, don't even worry about it. I'm just going to climb right up that and just start punching this guy like that. That was one of those moments where I was like, I'm glad I took that.
But Sudi always forgets he's lucky.
I do always forget I'm lucky, and I really shouldn't do that because once per day I can, to get a reroll. So.
And Sitra in that fight managed, despite the fact that you weren't getting a whole lot of sneak attack in, you managed to deliver a lot of damage in that fight. So
We shot a
that
lot
was
of arrows.
Yeah, there was a lot of ranged combat. In
We
that
learned
fight.
that Onuris doesn't have a ranged weapon.
I may or may not have eviscerated somebody.
Yes. And Sagira was happy about that.
He lived.
So
Well, Sagira was like, yes, you murdered this guy I can't get to.
that episode ended with the party splitting again. Half of the party running one direction, the other half of the party staying behind.
I promise we don't do this.
Yeah, not recommended.
This is
not
a weird
recommended.
campaign.
And Eurus was not thrilled with that.
That's why, like, the entirety of the beginning of episode 21, which starts with a splitted, I'm just sitting there going, all right, when are we going to be in trouble for this?
Yeah,
at some point we will be in trouble.
There's always that little bit of terror that kind of raises
Yeah.
up whenever you
We don't ever do
party?
it, ever. Just in this
We
campaign.
really
just
don't.
waiting for
Splitting up
something
during
to
the
go wrong.
downtime, we do that a lot. It's just we usually don't role play it as heavily as we
Yeah.
did those last two episodes. So, yeah, this episode, the splitting was not a normal event.
Yeah, and in Citra's case, and if I were Citra's player, if I were Rachel, I wouldn't have been as concerned about the pairing, because it's always when the party splits, it's always nice to be the one still standing next to the cleric.
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
true. Yeah, that's
So it's
true.
like, oh, I'm in
And
a
he was
city.
fresh.
I'm in a city full of undead next to the cleric.
But
well, I
if
think I'm okay.
yours is in a mood, apparently.
He was so salty. He was so the kettle in the pot and kettle debate. Like, how dare she not tell us anything?
So there were some interesting reveals in that episode that will have a longer stretch on
Yeah.
the side of Onuris and Sitra, as they got to go give a little bit of back and forth.
3/4 of us were gang members.
Onuris got to
Not officially.
find out a little bit more pertaining towards Sitra, Citra's involvement in the Silver Chain.
By proxy.
By proxy, it was more her brother's involvement in the Silver
Theoretically,
Chain.
I was never in.
True.
You never had the silver chain on your wrist, so you're okay.
And of course, many listeners will know that while it hasn't really been revealed in depth to the party, Sitra discussed a little bit about her brother's death with Folto, and you all got a little bit of information pertaining towards it in the episode where there was a cat mummy and she freaked the frack out and then took off running.
Yeah, because I think we all know that your brother was killed, and we all kind of know it was something in a tomb.
By a little bit of an association thing. I don't know if she's expressly ever stated that too. I think she talked a little bit about it with Onuris, that her brother was
I thought it was
dead.
when she ran. I thought that was part of...
Well, no, Rick described her having that vision.
Oh,
but
that's
I
right,
don't
that's
think,
right. But the party
Sitra
didn't-
actually
Yeah,
said
we
anything about it.
yeah, she didn't say anything about it,
Yeah,
so we don't
she-
actually know beyond she was really scared of that,
And we just assumed it was the magic of the item.
Right, yeah.
And all of you do know, and I don't know if this really occurred on yours so much, but all of you do know that she stated that a lot of her studies and everything in Tefu were pertaining towards curses and the way that curses worked. And she's always been the most hesitant to crack open a sarcophagus or do anything along those lines, disturbing the dead. For good reason, but we got a little bit more of a look into that. And now Rachel, at the very least, and now Sitra, once Sagira and Sudi got back, know that the gang that her brother was a member of are apparently operating now in
They haven't gotten
Wati
a chance
once
to
again.
tell us that. Or about
Sagira
the
knows
mask
so
yet.
many things to tell you.
Yeah,
She's
we-
got to ask you about a lady with a mask.
Well, we have,
So-
a current problem that we're addressing. Which
Yes,
is-
because that became priority
Yeah,
one as soon as I
and
heard
then
that.
at the end of this episode, the Scorched Hand went from being kind of annoying to Onuris wants to really punch him in the face now.
Sagira's
But-
kind of sad.
But are you really surprised? Because I kind of expected them to do that trick, to do that. But I thought they would do it already. Like, it would already all be ransacked, so...
Well, no, not that part. The
Hiring
the
someone.
skeletons.
Oh,
is
that
what-
was just...
That's
that
so
was
messed
just
up.
annoying.
Yeah.
That's just,
Sagira was so
that's-
excited to talk to some jackals.
There was also the other reveal from Sagira's phenomenal survival
And
check.
apparently there's another dude in here too.
Yeah.
There's some barefooted person.
Some barefooted guy, yeah, who was in here and then he left.
I know, yeah,
He
but
might be the one taking care of the temple.
Yeah, but the fact that there's
My guess.
anybody in the necropolis who takes care of anything is pretty impressive.
Magic.
Or I don't believe it because that's just
He
like
could be a super high level something caster.
Question.
I mean maybe.
Does Tatmanib,
Pepmanib.
was he barefoot?
No.
Oh, okay. He
Yeah,
follows
it was-
Pharasma.
He was just weird.
Also, yeah, he follows Pharasma.
He was weird, but he
Like-
follows Pharasma.
Okay.
Yeah, he's probably out here somewhere, but
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a feeling he'll be back.
That was a weird episode too because it's hard to play chaotic neutral when you're not a neutral person in real life. Like, I'm a neutral, but not chaotic neutral person in real life. And I'm like, Sagira probably would have wanted that kid dead. But then he was a kid. And Sagira was a kid when she was in a gang, and that was really crappy, and she
I
remembers
was
not
gonna
liking
say also
that.
he's like Sudi's age, so
let's touch on that just a little bit because
That was pretty brilliant, because if he had been an adult man, he would have been dead.
I wasn't intentionally attempting to manipulate. I did want to make a little bit of parallel there, though, between just I guess a little behind the screens there, a little parallel there between Citra's brother and his situation, and that same idea that this is almost a gang that just takes advantage of like real life gangs do. They take
Like gangs
advantage
do.
of disenfranchised or vulnerable youth or youth that have economic issues to bring them in, and then once they're in, there's almost no way for them to get back out. And in his case, you got some interesting information, particularly pertaining towards the fact that not only are the Silver Chain here, but the leader of the Silver Chain's here.
And he's apparently running around with
In love with
some
some
crazy lady.
Yeah.
And they've gotten religious suddenly.
Yeah, suddenly in some sort of strange religion where they're wearing golden funerary masks
Yeah.
and running around searching through the necropolis, also seemingly looking for something.
But they were just looking. They actually weren't behind the, netting.
Yeah, because the Scorched Hand is the one who basically got this group of the Silver
And Citra
Chains
was
to
totally
actually
right.
Well,
attack us.
the implication though was also
That guy decided he wanted out of
Yeah,
the
he
gang.
wanted out.
because they've
So he
gone
was
this
looking
religious
for
thing,
money.
yeah.
And he was doing it on his own, not for the Silver Chain, which made Citra 100% right. And
Well,
she
he's
called
out of the gang now, and Pharasma will deal with the aftermath. Of
It's
that.
I was going to say, regardless, Pharasma doesn't forget.
Now, there is an interesting thing that also kind of ties back into this because, as you guys may have caught during that episode, a majority of them were all using either kopeshes or scimitars. And the bodies that you found with the scorched hand were all killed with curved blades.
Well,
Wait, what
Curtblade-
bodies? Oh, the body, not the jackal bodies.
No, the bodies in the alleyway when you fought
Yeah,
side by
we knew
side
they'd
with
been
the scorched
jumping
hand.
people.
Yeah, so it's quite possible that this wasn't them attacking
And those
you.
bodies
wasn't
had
the
been
first time
stripped. So,
of all their gear and belongings
By
and
the
such.
scorched hand, maybe.
Possibly.
well, or these guys now.
Well, I know, but like, is that how they met?
Oh, could have been like they came upon them.
Maybe. Maybe
It's
they beat
possible.
him up just like we did and then offered him to steal out.
Dun, dun,
I mean, Adori didn't mention anything when she was awkwardly flirting with Sagira.
I mean, I didn't ask her, so
I was going to say that's not something that just comes up in conversation.
no.
So are you hiring thieves to...
She doesn't seem super loyal, so maybe we don't have to kill her. We'll see.
I mean, regardless, I think that Sudi at least is
Oh,
I haven't really gone into his like oaths and stuff, but he's probably not going to try to kill them.
Onuris is real upset with this
Actually,
whole
that's
jackal
that whole
undead
jackal thing he
thing.
might kill.
I mean, if they
I mean,
got it.
necromancers are. Pharasma's not a big fan.
Yeah, I
of
was going to say
necromancers.
she really doesn't
Which
like
of you
that.
raised these things? Which of you?
Well,
What does Nethys think of
she's the only one who's
Nethys is
He
cool.
doesn't- Nethys
Nethys
is a
doesn't
true
care.
neutral deity. He
doesn't
doesn't
care.
care.
I do love Nethys.
You know
Nethys
what?
does. Yeah, the god Nethys does not attach any sort of morality to the use of magic.
He's like the Gozra of magic.
It's that magic is a tool and it does not matter what you use magic for. And that's pretty much it. So, but yeah, that basically kind of covers that. I don't know if you guys have any questions pertaining towards things behind the screen or the enemies that you fought this. I mean, in those kind of 4
I
episodes
wanna
that we're
punch-
covering, there's only one encounter.
I want to punch Hat Lady. I
Yeah.
mean, there's that.
You could just straight up punch her.
I could.
I was going to say, what's she going to do? Like, wizard you? She's
She
gonna
might
just,
have a
like,
dagger in her hand or something. We'll see. We'll see how it falls out.
Yeah, I know specifically she's going to be in trouble if she actually raised undead.
It's
in
either
the city
her.
of the undead, you know.
It's either her or the cleric.
Well,
the
It could
cleric,
be a Zaz,
the
I guess,
cleric
technically.
channeled
but-
a heal,
No.
which means he's either good or is neutral and chose to do the good channel thing.
But you could still create undead.
Sure.
They're
yeah,
not humans.
but it's still.
Zaz was using a grease wand.
I was
doubt
going to
he
say, I
has
think
the
she's like
talent for
first
it.
level, like, if anything. You know?
Yeah, I mean, in all likelihood, it was Hat Lady because she's pretty. She's the one that's
Valeriana.
the worst.
So yeah, I mean that basically covers those 4 episodes at that point, since we're covering a little bit on episode 18 as well. So on to a little bit of channel news. We actually have a lot of channel news for this after party, so where to begin? First off, as we mentioned before, we've expanded, and you might notice a little facelift for our website. We've added a blog post section, which we're going to be adding to fairly regularly. We're hoping to at least add 1 post to it a week, just to kind of keep in contact with you guys, give you a little bit more, give you something to kind of mule over between episodes while you're waiting for things. The second thing that we were going to mention too is we actually have a subreddit now.
And weirdly enough, we didn't create the subreddit.
Yes.
One of our fans
We
did.
we did have a
Which is pretty
yes.
awesome.
Which is
We did have a listener that set up the subreddit for us, Jay, who I believe goes by the Twitter handle of Volingit. I think it's technically at Volingit.
Yeah, it's dyslexic loving it. Like, you
Yeah,
know.
dyslexic
like-
and loving it, but spelled really
Yeah,
difficult.
Yeah, we can't pronounce it. We're
As though
sorry.
you're dyslexic.
Sorry, but you are amazing, Jay, and we really appreciate all the hard work. If you have not gone over there and checked it out, you can find it by just searching for Find the Path Find the Path podcast on
On Reddit.
Find the
yeah.
Path, Find the Path
Yeah, it's
podcast on
r//
Reddit.
Find the Path podcast, all one word. So
Yeah. So yeah, Jay, thanks for setting that up. If you guys go over there, I mean, basically there's a thread to post on every episode that comes out. So if there's a little back and forth, I am planning on getting on there. I know Jordan and Heather and Jessica are all active on the boards and will routinely answer questions. Yeah, if you see official Find the Path, then that is basically me, because I'm not going to really set up a second one, because I do most of the answering for questions
Yeah,
on there.
we've all got flair on that says like real Heather, real Jordan, real Jess. Like, so you'll know it's us and not somebody pretending to be us.
So, and we of course appreciate everything that you guys reach out to us about there.
If you have questions for me, just direct them at Rick.
Do not talk to her.
Rachel has a
A hermit. She lives on a mountain,
yes.
and to get here, she walks over like 7 small wooden bridges.
And it's
They're very
snow
pretty.
both ways.
No, it's uphill both ways somehow.
Barefoot.
Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes she sees like Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of people. It's very weird. Aang's out there. I don't know.
So we
Yeah,
of
that
course
means
have
I'm
gotten
an airbender off.
a number of emails as well, which has been great, and we always enjoy hearing from you. And you can of course reach out to us with any of your questions or concerns. A lot of them have been very positive, and we of course always appreciate that. But as always, I feel a little awkward just reading through all the.
If you want to paraphrase, though.
Yeah, I
at
mean,
least
we
the-
don't
the
get to read those
question.
because they all get to you.
It's
so-
true.
Yeah,
We
we don't
never
have
get
to
to
hear
read
about having
But for this week, we're going to be answering an email that we got from Ian. Ian is from Utah, so hey, Ian, I'm.
Hey, thanks for also telling us where you're from, so we don't just give you a location.
It is true.
I mean,
Although,
sometimes our
what-
locations are awesome.
What do we know about Utah?
There's a mountain.
Norman.
There's a Salt Lake there.
There's a
Yeah,
Salt,
Lake
there,
City.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's in Horizon Zero Dawn.
So, from the beautiful state of Utah, Ian writes in and states, hey everyone, huge fan of what I'm hearing so far. As someone who doesn't have a group to play with anymore, sitting at your table while you play has been great. I'd absolutely love to help spread the word about the channel and have been to all my friends to try to get them interested in Pathfinder. Ian then follows with a couple of questions for us. I'm basically going to get to the big one, as he actually gives us 3 questions, but the big one being the second one is, as someone getting into Pathfinder, after being a bit bored with 5e's simplicity, no, not us trying to bash on 5e, that's someone else. We do love Pathfinder, though. What is the best recommendation that you can make to me to have my Pathfinder games feel as real as you make them? So I already answered Ian back, but I'll go ahead and just kind of paraphrase my answer back
Just
to
a
that.
rules question?
No,
I took
think
it.
it's-
I actually took it as both.
Okay.
So for my rules, I basically stated that the one thing that I'll commonly hear on podcasts, and this is something I really suggest for GMs to keep in mind, is a lot of times GMs in podcasts, and it's understandable because you don't play as often as you possibly do for your regular games or for as long as time, they'll forget conditions. And there's something, conditions, while they hamper the party and that it is rough and everything, it adds that verisimilitude to your game. That it makes it seem far more lifelike when it's, okay, I'm poisoned. Okay, I'm dealing with the poison. Okay, this horrible, undead, stenching thing comes at me and I'm sickened. It's also, a condition is the fastest way to make a party change their tactics from what they would normally do. It's usually, okay, I'll just step forward and do something. But if you remember light radius and whether or not the character can actually see them or whether or not it's in dim illumination, or you remember something has the ability to cast something like fog cloud, even though that's more of a concealment and less of a condition, it is still impeding the progress of the players. Remembering conditions is pretty much the best rule mechanic I can suggest for making your games feel more real. Talking about storytelling, however, from a game master standpoint, for me it's description. And there's something that I always try to keep in mind when I'm describing things, and sometimes I'm better at it than others, is to try to engage all 5 senses. Of course, we are visual creatures, humans, as by nature, but describing the smell, oftentimes saying, you know, I think in this last episode I mentioned something about you walking in and there's that like carnal stench of a butchery. And like that kind of puts you more there, even if I just say, okay, you see blood. But really getting into, I don't describe taste that often, unless every once in a while I'm like, yeah, like blood splatter. Sometimes I'll just say like the bitter taste of your potions. Yeah. But so those would be my 2 big suggestions. What about you, Jess?
I think from the player standpoint, there's kind of a couple of things. Okay, so the first thing is writing a backstory. Like, we always write a backstory. I mean, it's like a minimum 500 words, but I don't think I've written less than 1,000 words ever. Care about your character. That's how the backstory helps. Make them real in the setting. Maybe research where they're going to be from. I do like an insane amount of research into where my character's from.
Yeah, that part's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And by kind of, like, a lot.
It's super
Yeah,
fun.
and you can, and as a DM, if you want your players to be really immersed, you have to work with them on their backstories. Like, if they give you a backstory and they're, you know, big, like, the cliffhanger they give you that they want you to work with is something you're not going to be able to work into the campaign, let them know. Don't just, you know, have them have this story hook in their background that you know you're never going to be able to use.
Yeah.
Work with them to make them, you know, feel like they're engaged in the setting. Like, when we always kind of work with Rick or Jordan or our friend Ross, whoever is our DM, about how, hey, you know, this is what my character, we give them backstory, this is kind of what I'm going for. That's the campaign traits for the Adventure Pass help with that a lot, because you know there's going to be a hook. But don't leave them hanging. Like, if they have something, you're like, oh, well, there's this big plot hook in this town we start in, but then you know that the adventure path or the story you're going to run takes them away from there. be like, hey, you're not going to be here the whole time. Maybe have a reason why you'd want to leave the town.
And make all of the choices that you mechanically took for your character make sense. Like, if you can't explain why your character has X trait or X feat or X whatever, then maybe figure it out or change it so that it's like realistic. Like, if I'm in Osirian, I'm probably not going to play like
Winter Witch archetype.
A Winter Witch. Yeah, that's weird.
I have 2 small ones, just because you've done this in our game several times. It's kind of the little things that you pull in from our backstory. Like, I mean, not to like bring up our old characters all the time, but one of my characters, my little halfling investigator, you brought in her family. It had absolutely nothing to do with the plot, but the fact that my half-orc friend got to have dinner with my halfling family
It was so cute.
Yeah.
freaking hilarious. And it didn't necessarily propel the plot forward, but it was just a really nice touch. And then the other thing is, as far as like players trying to get more into the story, is don't be afraid to actually ask, hey, can my character do this? Or I want my character to do this. How do I make this happen? You know, because sometimes we're like, oh, well, I don't know if I can do this and everything. It's like, try. All he can say is no,
Just
or he'll
jump
make it
on
work, or say, hey, it's this difficult, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's good to like take that initiative sometimes and be like, yeah, I want to do that. Jordan.
Well, and another fun, just kind of GM suggestion here also is it is very easy, especially if you have an NPC that does not get a lot of characterization or have a lot of page space in a book, to just take out a character and then insert or a person from the character from another player's backstory and then expand that part. So for instance, if you have a player who has it's like, oh, I've got a brother and he's in the town guard. Then when there's a murder, just instead of it being, oh, well, the sheriff shows up to tell you about this murder, it's your brother. He comes and says, hey, there's this murder. It was really weird. Would you mind looking into it? And so adding in things like that and really working with your players, especially if you're going to do an urban campaign with character backstories, to tie those characters to the setting. Jordan, your thoughts?
So the big thing for me that, I mean, obviously I'm going to echo everything that they said. The one thing that I do that really helps me get into the game and into my character is developing both a character voice, but also mannerisms. So, for instance, flaws is just as important as having attributes. So, like, I'm making a character in Curse of the Crimson Throne, I put a stutter. Because I played a character who wasn't an adventurer, who had never left the city, who was born there. And what happened is after a while, I started making that stutter less and less and less, because he was getting more confident and he was changing over time. And so the biggest thing is, if you want to bring realism, your characters aren't static. They change over time, and what happens to them actually can affect them, both positively and negatively. So Sudi getting almost eaten by that sarcophagus, he's probably not going to get anywhere near a sarcophagus anytime soon, and that's that's real. That's genuine. Make him a real person at that point.
Yeah, the previous game you mentioned, I think all of our characters had a pretty epic change. So I'm kind of curious to see how that happens in Mummy's Mask, like how we evolve.
We haven't even begun to get PTSD.
I know.
So what about you, Heather?
Well, like I said, just if you want the game to feel more realistic, you have to have your players involved. And
Making characters that feel real.
Making characters that feel real. And like Jess said, if you have a feat or a background trait or something, work it into your background. Explain why your character has that trait. It's like, why does your character have max ranks in knowledge religion when they're not not like one of the classes I would normally have it, you know?
Oh, consequences.
And as a DM, you need, if you want the game to feel real, have consequences for your players. If they do something stupid, I don't want to say don't be afraid to punish them, because that sounds wrong. But if you let them get away with everything, they're just going to escalate.
Well, if you walked up to the king and punched him in the face,
your character's arrested.
There's a
roll a new
consequence.
character, basically.
Try not to be a murder hobo.
Yeah. There needs to be consequences for their actions, because,
And similarly, if they take a risk and pull something off, like
reward
them with an epic description of what they just accomplished, or let them do it, something like that.
Yeah, but I did want to say one other thing on adding realism, or making your game feel more real. Pathfinder is a 10 out of 10 on the basically complexity scale, first edition, as far as most tabletop role-playing games go. It is definitely one of the most complex systems. Don't let that stand as a barrier in your way to playing the game. As a game master, oftentimes you'll know what's coming up. You'll know, okay, the guys are going to cross this bridge and there's a possibility they're going to fall in. Just don't worry about reading the swimming mechanics until you know there's a chance your party's going to swim. Don't bog yourself down with the rules, but just familiarize yourself with them as you go. You don't have to memorize every rule in the book to enjoy playing the game.
And there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I'm not 100% sure how this works. We're going to do it this way. And then after the game, you read over it. But just let your players know, okay, the way we did it the first time, we just kind of, I didn't want to slow down the game by looking up this really complex rule. Yeah. This is what we did, but this is the actual rule, so this is how we're going to use it from now on. And
I don't use this a lot at my table, but one of the easiest things that you can do, and it's just a suggestion to all the GMs out there listening, never feel afraid to deputize a player. Mm-hmm. If you're in the middle of running the game, and then something comes up and it's like, okay, there's a rules question, just go, this is what I think it is, so we're going to go with that. And you just finished your turn, so it's going to be another minute or two before it gets back around to you. Take a second, Jessica, look up this rule, and we're going to keep going. Mm-hmm. But to segue from what Heather was actually just saying about consequences for actions, we do actually have a second question that was written into us, and so I want to get to this one. And it falls very heavily into that, and I'll actually answer this one and a question I've been asked twice already. This one is from Jay, who is from British Columbia up in Canada. Oh, nice. So, hey, he sent in an email. He said, "Hi, great podcast. I share your love for Pathfinder, especially Adventure Paths, and I am in awe of how many Adventure Paths you've completed."
We're ridiculous.
We are abnormal.
So are we.
Yeah.
His question is, how much character death have you experienced in previous Adventure Paths?
Oh.
Just wondering what we can expect in this particular AP. So that is an interesting question, Jay. And the other question that I'm going to answer that I've been asked a couple of times, I'm not personally a big fan of GM fiat. The idea that because my dice are being bounced behind a screen, that I can lie about whatever I'm rolling. Because the moment that I start that, I put myself in a position where I can do favoritism.
And it's a slippery slope.
And I don't like to show favoritism, and I kind of like the dice to tell the story. And I know that's just kind of a cliche thing that you'll hear a lot. But it shouldn't be me behind the screen arbitrarily deciding whether or not you succeed or fail. That's what I love about Pathfinder, is that I can look at this and you can go, okay, I want to climb this cliff, and I can look at it, add all the conditions to it, tell you what the DC is, and at that point, it's your dice rolls that decide whether or not that succeeds or fails. And as such, I don't shy away from character death, but I am a firm believer that, at the very least at my table, I do not like it to be the game master versus the players. Mm-hmm. I like us to all be on the same team, we're all telling a story together. Sometimes character death is part of that, and sometimes it can be a great part of it. Especially if it comes at a good time. If you have an epic Boromir scene where it's just kind of a redemption and an awesome battle and everything else.
I have died an absolute hero, and to me that's the best death you can get is saving the party or saving a member of the party.
That's my only character death, I think.
Yeah, like if you go out the hero to me, that's the best you can get.
It is a cooperative game, and we really do work together.
We work together.
Yeah.
We work hard not to let each other die.
Yeah.
And mind you, I haven't ever gotten through an adventure path without someone dying.
Well, and we do the med kit, which is a thing I don't know if a lot of other groups do.
We keep all of our
the healing stuff that we find in like a party pool. And then around the time that we have enough money, we almost always chip in for a scroll of Raise Dead, which just hangs around in the med kit. So once we have enough money to buy one of those, if somebody dies,
short of you getting like disintegrated.
Yeah.
And when we don't buy one of those and somebody dies, we're very confused. Wait, there's not one. Are you sure? Check again.
We didn't restock this.
But yeah, so as far as character deaths are concerned, I do actually give the party, instead of the 20-point buy, I give them a 25-point buy. Epic. It doesn't do a lot.
It helps a little bit.
It helps just a teeny tiny bit.
We also don't really, nobody dumps Constitution.
And
I was going to say, we don't dump
another thing that we do, which is another cooperative thing, is, while we might not always have rogue, wizard, fighter, cleric, we usually have at least some working combination of those things.
Frontline.
So we usually have pretty balanced parties, so it's not like 3 fighters and a wizard.
We're a weird party, because I think we just don't tend to have a lot of arcane casters in parties. Like a couple of times we've had an arcane caster, but it's not. If anything's gone, it's usually that. Yeah,
arcane is the first that this group tends to leave behind.
Only because otherwise I would just be playing that the entire time.
I mean, I like divine casters a lot. And I mean, I like oracles a lot. So it's like I end up playing divine a lot.
Yeah.
I know
I love
Rachel
my
does
clerics.
too.
Yeah.
I will also say that none of my players are min-maxers. I would say that none of them are even optimizers.
I'm
Well, that being said, all of them do a good job of making characters that fulfill not only their role as role-playing in characters, but also fulfill their role in the party. Yeah, I mean, as far as you're concerned with Mummy's Mask,
someone will die.
Inevitably,
It's just how
it
it's
is a
gonna be.
possibility. I have also read that Mummy's Mask is really high up there on the challenge level,
Oh, goody.
particular
Right.
in the mid-books.
Thanks
Hey,
for
but
that
mid books we
warning.
might have the raised dead ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's usually like level 8 is where it starts to be like,
yeah.
So yeah, as long as it's not the cleric.
Yeah,
we get
the
a scroll. You have read magic. Now you just need to like,
I have used magic device.
yeah.
yeah. The thing about it is like when character death happens, we're never mad at Rick or whoever's jamming, right? It's it's usually a situation.
Yeah,
When
the
I died-
situation can get really frustrating.
When Fauna
Yeah,
died.
like I was gonna say, usually I've gotten frustrated at a situation, but never do I get frustrated at Rick.
And tying Ian and Jay's questions kind of together there, one of the suggestions that I can reach out there to all GMs is it is good to just let the dice fall where they will, because I am not the enemy to the players. I've never decided to take that. I mean, mind you, every monster I run,
They're very out to kill us.
I run them
if you're-
dedicated to kill the party. On the subject of realism, though, that is, I will leave it off with that one of the things to always keep in mind with realism is you as the game master know everything that is going on. You have a bird's eye view of the screen. You know the story and what's going to progress next. You've been fighting these players over and over again. The random pack of gnolls that the party stumbles into, they don't know what spells the wizard prepares. When a party member goes, I'm going to ready an action to fireball when 3, enemies get within a 20-foot radius of each other. The enemies don't know that that's what the party is doing.
yeah. Don't metagame as the GM.
It's like always play to what the monsters would do.
And that includes looking at their intelligence score and knowing, oh, these guys are too smart to fall for this, or no, these are just mindless brutes.
And I will say that oftentimes that also works against the players, because having listened, that also play the monsters the way the monsters should be played. If a monster has 5 attacks and it drops a party member on the second attack, and there is nothing else in reach, there is no reason that monster does not continue his 3 attacks against the downed enemy.
Now, if there are 2 other people within reach,
Yeah.
of course it's not
Yeah.
going to keep
or if it
pounding.
has something in
Or if it has something,
tactics
well, that's why I was
Yeah.
saying, if it started a full attack action, it will just continue. And a lot of times I find the easiest way to get around that is if I have a dragon that's going to attack someone with 7 attacks and I know that there is nothing else it can do, I'll just roll all 7 at once, know how many hits, and then give you the damage. I'm not saying go after your players, but don't just go, oh, okay, well, you fell to the ground and has 3 attack actions left, but I guess it's just going to end
This
its turn.
dragon with this 20 intelligence who knows that you're not dead, you're just on the ground, is
and
not
that a
going to
cleric
just
can get you back up.
is not going to just be like, oh, I guess I'm done attacking this person.
And it sucks, but it's played the enemies the way that they should be played.
And that's how we get our
don't
character
metagame.
deaths,
Yeah.
guys.
Don't.
No, we die from falling off things and being in the water. That's how we die.
That's how characters will die from one of
eaten
3
by
ways
stuff.
almost every single time. It is they will drown, they will fall off something,
Yep.
or a critical hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say the critical hit. I've killed people with critical
Which-
hits, like a critical
That's
hit.
what
When it
killed
comes-
my character at the end of Skull and Shackle. I got critical. Good
This
night.
one over here, though, Jessica took a freaking disintegrate to the face.
Twice.
And survived.
That was my battle oracle. Battle oracles, guys, you got to do them. They're amazing.
So yeah, that answers that.
I passed the saves.
There was actually another question from Ian, and I'm not going to get into that here, but he did ask us for our thoughts pertaining towards the Pathfinder playtest. We have had a chance to play it a little bit, but we're going to kind of hold off. We don't really want to influence all of you out there who are playing through the playtest
think
with
we-
our opinions and our views.
I think we might have mentioned this in one
Some
of the
good,
other
some bad.
ones, but
Yeah.
like they made a big deal about at PaizoCon about if you're going to do the playtest, go into it fresh. Try not to like read other people's reviews. Try not
Yeah,
to
don't
know
watch the
story.
Twitch streams that they're doing.
So
after the
we're gonna
testing,
try.
you
We're
know.
trying to kind of keep our opinions on the quiet. For
The
now.
one thing I will throw out there is if you are not following the Paizo Twitch stream, not for their gameplay, but actually for their interviews with the developers and things like that, definitely do. Because they'll get on there periodically and just update with what they've heard, what they're thinking about changing, and they are definitely listening. So if you are interested in doing the Pathfinder playtest, just do it.
Yeah,
Get out there,
puts this
do
much
it.
work into a playtest.
Yeah, no one puts this much work
Jason
into a
Bowman's
playtest
made
without
some posts on like Twitter and
doing
Facebook
feedback.
about how he can't wait for more surveys to get turned in. And
Yeah,
things
no,
like
I mean,
that,
and
so.
that's the thing also, if you do have the opportunity to do the playtest, please do the playtest and give them the feedback because they really are looking for that and they're actually listening, which is huge. I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's really it for us. Thank you for the emails. Keep sending them in because we love hearing from you guys and we love having the opportunity to, I think in the first episode I said that we have collectively about 55 years of experience at this table. So it's not as much as some groups, but it's more than others and we're happy to share as much as we can.
And tweet at us.
Yeah,
Use
tweet
the
at us.
hashtag.
If, you know,
Tweet
if you
at
just
us.
have
Tweet
a
at us.
quick question, you know, we don't mind. We'll answer.
Post on the Reddit. you
Use
know.
our Twitter hashtag find the path pod. And you might show up on our website.
Yeah,
and also,
so-
you know, we'll see it.
Yeah,
Nudge,
so
nudge, wink,
tweet at us. We've got our blog out, so follow us on the blog. You can leave comments on our blog, as well as in the episodes on the website if you would like to do that. You can also
and on
Reddit.
the Reddit.
routinely contact us on the Reddit. And again, if you want anything mentioned on here, if you want your name and state thrown out there,
Or place of existence.
or place of
If you-
existence.
and
yeah.
like
It could be
we've
fake.
done before, if you don't tell us where you're from, you're just getting some random place.
We could assign
in-
you a place.
in Pathfinder
Yeah,
land.
I still feel sorry for I
The
think it
poor
was
girl we put
Sarah
in
and
Thrushmore,
Thrushmore.
yeah.
We just love Thrushmore. It's terrible, but it's great
It's,
in our game.
yes, Thrushmore is a sad and terrible place. So yeah, and then we've got some more great things coming up in the works here soon, and I think you're going to really enjoy the episodes that we've got coming up here shortly as we make our march to the end of Book 1. So until
I've got a lady to punch in the face.
Me too.
yeah, lots of punching ladies in the face. We do not condone
And
violence against
men.
anyone.
We'll punch
but
them equally as hard.
yes, we are equal opportunity punchers here.
They earned it by
Backstabbing
deboning
us.
some jackals.
And
Yeah.
by stealing our stuff.
That shit.
As a side note, I would suggest only Sudi actually punch people in the face.
I'm going to stab
I'm
him
trained in
face
it.
with a sword.
I don't
Anyway.
have types of opportunity by doing this.
That is
I'm going to dip in brawler so I can punch him in the face.
that is true. So until next time, Pathfinders, good luck.
Okay, girl.